This is starting to feel kind of repetitive, but it's a good thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So this week, Parshat Naso, one of the more famous Parshiot in the Torah, probably because at the end of the Parsha, we find Parshat Nesieim, the chapter, the Psukim that we read throughout Chanukah, and that are very repetitive. As you know, when you hear them on Chanukah, you can always hear the crowd leaning together with the Baal Korah, saying the tune together with the Baal Korah, because every single day it's the same tune, and not only the same tune, but almost also the same words. And you have to ask yourself the big question, why? Why does the Torah repeat again and again and again and again every Nassi and gives each one its own little Parsha, its own Psukim, in order to say the exact same thing that they said about the previous Nassi? And even more so, when you look at that chapter, those Psukim, when the Nesieim bring their Korbanot, we can see that at the beginning, all the Nesieim together bring a gift for the Mishkan, which was used for the Levim themselves. And the Torah does not elaborate about that gift. It only elaborates about each individual's personal daily gift that they brought, each one on its own day, which even enhances the question, because that means that there is a reason the Torah is elaborating so much about the Korbanot of the Nesieim on the days of the Chanukah of the Mishkan. So you have to ask yourself, why does the Torah elaborate so much about each Nassi if they all brought the same Korban? And even more so, the famous question, why did they all bring the same Korban? What was the idea behind each one of them bringing the exact same Korban than other Nassi brought the day before them?
It's interesting, your second question is based on some sort of assumption that they need to bring something else. And I think this comes from a natural place that we all think that you want to always bring something special. If you're going to bring a present, you can never do the same thing someone else did. You always have to do something else, something special, something different. It's all about being different. Being like everyone else, that's just plain old boring. And the first lesson I think this teaches is that you don't have to do something else. If Nachshon ben Aminadav gave a great offering, you don't have to do something else. You can just continue what he's doing and do the same thing. Doing the same thing when it's the right thing is not necessarily a bad thing. It may be bad for your personal pride, but it's not bad for the truth and for what you're trying to bring. But this, as you said, raises the second question is, so if they're bringing the same thing, why mention it again and again and again? If it's the exact same thing, then, we could say they all brought the same offering. And that's great. We would learn that lesson that you could follow and bring that same thing, but why repeat every single time? And it seems the Torah is teaching here another lesson. And I think this lesson is related to a lot of things in Judaism. We would think that if you're bringing the same thing, you're not really doing anything. Part of the reason that people want to bring something different is because they want it to be theirs. They don't want to bring someone else's korban. They want to bring their own offering. They want to bring something special. Not only, as we were joking before, to be different than the other, but also to be special, to be something of their own. And if you're bringing the same as someone else, it seems you can't bring that special offering. And if you bring what someone else brought, then you're not unique. You're just the same thing. But the Torah is actually teaching us that it doesn't work like that. Even within a certain format, even when technically on the outside, you're all bringing the same thing, these aren't the same korbanot. Every day had a different korban. You know why? Not because technically it was a different animal, it was a different offering, but because it was a different person bringing it. And every person brings their sacrifice, brings their offering with something else. They bring themselves in it. They have a different kavanah. They're a different person. They have different thoughts, different emotions. So that same structure, that same thing that on the outside is the same, is not the same and is worth mentioning over and over and over because every single one is different. As I said, I think this is related to many things. Davening, we daven every day. It's the same words, but it's not the same tefillah. As the Gemara in Brachot says about tefillah, that you need to renew something every single time you daven. Kol she'eino mechadesh badavar. But you're not renewing anything. You're saying the same words. But still, the ability to put in new thoughts, new feelings, not to just say it because you said it yesterday. If the Nesieim were bringing the same sacrifice just because they were imitating someone else, then that wouldn't have value, and there was no point in mentioning that every single day. But because they are giving the same offering, technically, but a different offering, they're bringing their self into this, then every day, even though the words are exactly the same, every day is worth mentioning on its own as if it's its own thing, totally ignoring what happens the day before and what happens the day after, because this is a special offering, the special offering of that Nassi.
I like what you're saying, and I think there's actually two sides to the same coin here. We know that doing something in a repetitive way actually creates a habit in a person. We know that in order to acquire a certain habit, you have to do it again and again and again until it becomes part of you, part of who you are, and really feel it in the inside, even without thinking about it. That's one side of repetitiveness. The other side of it is exactly what you were saying, that when something looks the same again and again and again, you actually have to dig deep inside in order to find real uniqueness within it, the real special point that that thing has within it. Find it, expose it in order to make it different, in order to make it special for that time, for that incident you're doing it. That's the other side of repetitiveness. And like you were saying, we saw this with the Nesieim, and also we see this with davening. We know that on the one hand, davening has a certain fixture, has a certain frame for it that we have to go by, that it's important for us in order to make sure that we do it every single day, to make sure that even in times that we don't have time or the times that we don't feel like it, we still have to daven, we still have to say those words. However, on the other hand, you need to find yourself, you need to find your heart, Rachmana Liba Baye, within davening. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to see our own personal heart within davening, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to find that uniqueness. We know also Chasidim Rishonim, Ayushim Sha'achad, it would take them time before they were able to approach davening, because it took them time to dig deep inside every single day to find that special, unique aspect of davening each time on a daily basis. And you know, it's also not only in davening, it's like you said, in all of Yiddishkeit, in all of Judaism. A few years ago, we were hosting a Shabbos meal, and we had over a few secular soldiers that haven't really seen a Shabbos meal in the past. That was actually the first time they were part of a Shabbos meal. And as usually the discussions around the table are always around the same topics, one of the topics we discussed were the Haredi world versus the secular world. And one of the folks found it very interesting that the Haredi world all dresses the same and looks the same. And he said there's no self-expression in the Haredi world because they all look the same. And I had to laugh at what he said. And I told him, you know, we have this expression that says you can't fit in if you were born to stand out. And we both know from our world the famous saying, think different or be different. And today, nowadays, people have taken that a little bit extra too much, where everybody is different, so it's hard to be different. So you have to be even more different than usual. And you have to break a little bit more the framework around you in order to be unique and to be special and to be different. However, that's not really different. When everybody's different, then everybody is actually the same. In order to really be unique, in order to really be special, you have to dig deep inside, find what's unique about you. And what's amazing about the Haredi world or any cultures where everybody looks the same and dresses the same, you actually have to find a real inner uniqueness, a real special thing about yourself that's really you, that's really from you, in order to express yourself, not an external thing, not something from the outside, not something that you use in order to break the framework around you, but the opposite. Within the framework, show how unique you are, show how special you are. And maybe these two messages of, first of all, doing repetitive things is what helps you acquire a habit, what helps make something part of you. And on the other hand, when you do something in a repetitive way, when you act like other people, you have to find the real uniqueness within yourself, the real special thing about yourself. Maybe these two messages is what the Torah is trying to tell us in this week's Parsha.
You know, it's interesting that at the end of this list, we have the famous Psukim Zot Chanukah Mizbeach, which brings a summary. And since everyone brought the same thing, the summary is quite simple. 12 of this, 12 of this, 12 of this, and 12, meaning, why do you have to tell me that? I can count. Oh, there's 12 people bringing, and it was 12 days, and they were all bringing the same thing. Why do we need that summary at the end? But maybe if the repetitiveness of the first part is about bringing that uniqueness, that special side of you, even when you're doing something similar to others, the second part is about saying it's not only about being separate, being special. At the end of the day, it's about bringing it all together as one. Being able to, on the one hand, bring your special side without that separating you from the whole. I think that's a result of exactly what we said. When the difference is external, is just so there is a difference, just so I'm special, then you're constantly going to be looking for what differentiates you from the others, what separates you from the others. But when each one is truly just trying to bring their own special place, it's very easy at the end of the list to group them all together as one. And this goes back to what we were saying last week about unity, which is so much needed these days. How true unity is not everyone being the same. And it's also, as we're saying, not everyone being different. It's everyone being special in their own way and respecting each other's specialty and respecting that everyone has their own day and their own place. And that allows everyone with their own uniqueness, with their own aspect that they bring, to come together as one whole.
Beautiful, beautiful. And again, like last week, we'll send from here our tefillot, our prayers for our soldiers, protecting us, for all the injured, and for all of Am Yisrael. Again, may we defeat our enemy once and for all, Be'ezrat Hashem.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shkoyach, Shabbat Shalom, and we'll talk again next week. For more Talking Torah videos on different topics, check out our YouTube channel.